Hello, everybody. Jason Levin here, Chief Gratitude Officer of the 2025 Relationships to Infinity Gratitude Challenge. I am here with Dr. Steve Silvestro. Dr. Steve Silvestro is a man of many hats, husband, father of two, the director of clinical product strategy at Roe. He's a double Hoya undergrad in med school, also the founder of the Child Repair Guide. Thrilled to have you here, Dr. Steve, for the Gratitude Challenge.
Yeah,
Uh,
Jason, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
yes, grateful for you. So, Dr. Steve, you're a doctor, you're a clinician. Um, Give us a little bit of background around what gratitude not only means to you, but what you know about the actual science behind it.
Yeah, it's actually because I know some of the science behind it is the reason that gratitude is so important to me and why I've tried to make it something that my family practices and focuses on. Um, let's dig into the science first. So we know that anything that you repeatedly do, you get better at doing in the future. That's why we practice things. There's actually science behind that in terms of how the brain functions. Some of the research that I love the most, it has to do with mindfulness. And there's a researcher named Sarah Lazar up in Boston who several years back was doing research on mindfulness, looking at three groups of people. People who had never practiced mindfulness before, people who took an 8-week course, and Buddhist monks who've been practicing for many, many years. And she used functional MRI, fMRI, to be able to look at not only the structure of their brains, but also the activity of their brains as they would practice mindfulness activities. And what she found was that the more that people practiced, the more experience people had, not only were the areas of the brain in charge of focus, compassion, attention, and decision making more active, those areas of the brain were actually thicker. So you're growing your brain like a muscle by practicing something repeatedly. And we see that with gratitude as well. The areas of the brain that are in charge of decision making, feelings of well-being, we see that those areas actually become more active and can become thicker in folks who practice gratitude more frequently. We also know that in the moment when you are feeling grateful, hormones like serotonin and dopamine, feel good hormones, those are released in the body. Stress hormones like cortisol are lowered. So there's actually a biochemical process that goes on in the body when you practice gratitude. And the more you do that, the better you get to be at noticing the good things in life, but then also reaping those biological benefits of gratitude. So,
Wow.
yeah.
That that's a lot to take in, even when we all think about practice and this idea of practice, whether it be music or sports, and you're talking about this muscle where often, oh, I got to work on my biceps or I got to work on my hamstrings. You're even saying that the brain is a muscle too, and that we all can practice and get better at something. And because of that practice in gratitude and mindfulness, you actually feel better. You actually are able to concentrate better. This is fascinating.
Yeah, that's
What?
right.
So because you understand all of this science, Dr. Steve, how does this show up for you and in your family?
So my wife and I, we have two kids who are now teenagers. And ever since they were little, we would try to work gratitude into our routines in some way. One of the things that we did very early on was that we would have 5 questions we would ask at dinner time. Part of it was a way to get to know them and hear about their day because we all know that kids come home from school, and a lot of kids, when you ask, "How was your day?" they say, "Good." And that might be all that you get. And so our 5 questions were, what was the best part of your day? What was the worst part of your day? How did you help somebody today? What are you grateful for today? And then how will you make tomorrow great? And that fourth question, what were you grateful for today? Not only started to really get the kids to notice things that they were grateful for, but also gave us insight into what made them tick, because besides just what was the best part, but really getting a chance to see what are they thankful for, what matters to them. Um, that was something that we were grateful for that opportunity. But the thing that has really stuck around in my family the most is something that we call the jar of awesome. And I stole this from Tim Ferriss, podcaster and author. We've been doing this since I actually looked up our first one was from 2018. So the jar of awesome is where you have a mason jar or some big jar in a place where it's super accessible to everyone in the family. We keep ours in a dining room. We have a pad of post-it notes and a pen, and it's there for anyone at any time on any day when there is something that they just think is awesome. They write it down and plunk it into the jar. It could be big things. So if we go on vacation, we usually have like a family sit down and we write down all the great things from the trip. It can be little things. One of the ones from when my kids were little was that both kids were sitting underneath a blanket reading a book. And my wife wrote that down and put it in there. And we keep that going all throughout the year. Everyone starts to really notice things and notice the good in each day. And then what we also love is on New Year's Day, we go through and we open up the jar of awesome for the year and we read all of the notes. And it's the most fun. Like it's just the warmest half hour to start the year off.
I love that in your practice, you make it so easy with this jar of awesome, which sounds awesome. And then you have a moment where you reflect on all the awesome over the 365 days. It's like this explosion of awesome.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Last question for you. So, because you know and clearly you practice it at home, gratitude and appreciation, you have the jar of awesome. How does that show up for you at work and how you work with your colleagues? You're a clinician, you're a doctor, now you're at Row. How does that show up at work?
Well, I think that everyone's job has moments of stress. And it can become very easy to feel overwhelmed in those moments. Um, but being able to step back and remember your why. Why am I here? Why am I doing this? Um, and assuming that what you're doing is in service of that why in some way. Being able to be thankful for the opportunity to do the work that you're doing. Um, Being grateful for the things that the the job that you're doing, the outcome that can have for other people, the outcome that it can have, the impact it has on your own life, um, can be a good sort of momentary reset in those moments when things get very busy or get super challenging. Um, I think that also, again, the science behind all of this, the more you practice it, the more likely you are to be able to find it and see it. Um, it's helpful to be able to fall back on that so that it's easier to find the good in the moments of what you do.
I love that. And you have helped me remind myself of the word practice. We talk about gratitude practice as if it's some journal, but we have all practiced things and gotten better at it over time. And so the first time I went for a jog, or the first time I got up and gave a speech, were awful or entirely average. But I think even in those reflection moments, you are telling us and encouraging us we all can practice things, and that our brain is just as much a muscle as any other part of our body. There are good things that come from it. It's easy to do, and you have it at home, you have it at work, and I love how gratitude is a part of your ecosystem. So, Dr. Steve, I am grateful for you. Thank you for joining the 2025 Relationships to Infinity Gratitude Challenge. And let's continue to be grateful. Thanks, Dr. Steve.
Thank you, Jason.